Shalom, my nap fam. It's T, the nappy head jojoba, here with the conclusion of the Beast Mode Reload. I shouldn't be that excited that this challenge is ending because I fucked it up anyway. I was far from perfect. I definitely had some drinks here and there. I wasn't out partying Thursday through Wednesday like I normally am, but there were a few events and occasions where I was just like, fuck it. I'm having some wine. There were also myriad days where I didn't drink all my water. Sugar was had. And I think there were even 2 or so weeks where I only hit 4 workouts instead of the required 5. And although I was basically bullied into doing this challenge because Philium, who some of you guys know from our days on Tasted and on Movie Buzz, and sidebar, Philium was perfect because he didn't do it back to back with Beast Mode Part 1. In a way, I still feel like this challenge was worthwhile and successful for me. I was going through a lot of transition in this challenge, basically transitioning off of crash dieting with those meal plans from the company that shall remain nameless, as well as transitioning into a new way of working out. Now I'm going to talk more about what I've been eating in a moment. That's basically the bulk of this video, is just what I eat in a day. But just in terms of wrapping up Beast Mode Reload, I also was doing the Peach Plan 2, still am. By next week, I should be done with all of the workouts, or what I should say is I will have done all of the workouts in the program, I think. And I feel that at that point, I'll be able to give the program a very informed review for you guys for the first episode of She Tried It. So stay tuned for that, because I've been writing down my thoughts similarly to how I review anything. So I've got my pros and cons and all of that kind of in a note on my phone, and we'll see if anything changes significantly as I finish up the remaining, I think, 4 workouts I need to try. I did all of phase 1, and I've done, I think, half of the workouts approximately in phase 2. So be on the lookout next week or the week after for my review on the Peach Plan 2 from Megan Grubb, and whether or not I put my entire ass on the internet to show you guys my results is TBD. But probably not, though. I will more than likely just have to describe whether my ass has changed at all, because I just ain't that bitch. Overall, despite my reticence to launch straight into yet another fitness challenge after just having completed one, I'm really glad I did Beast Mode Reload, and I hope that you guys had a lot of success with it too, those of you who participated. Remember, progress, not perfection, because perfection is folly. So if you've made even minor improvements in your health and fitness, that is a win. You guys inspire me all the time with your comments. One of you was talking about how increasing your water intake has helped you in so many other ways, and it reminded me how much it helps me get better sleep, how much my energy is even improved, just things that you wouldn't necessarily associate with being dehydrated. So toward the latter half of the challenge, I definitely stepped my water intake up, thanks to just talking to you guys in the comments. As I alluded to a moment ago, I was also transitioning off of glorified crash diets into upping my calories, which I'm continuing to do gradually. I created a little Google Sheet template for myself to track my macros. It's super bare bones and basic, and even though that is the case and it was not meant to be shared with anyone because it was just for me, a lot of you guys asked for it, so I went ahead and made a general sort of based off of 2,000 calories template, which you can find linked in the description box. Again, this was not intended to be shared or used by anyone else, so don't come at me if you have complaints or things you want changed, because that's not my problem. But if you just want a simple log that's basically in an Excel format that will add up your calories as you put them in throughout the day, as well as your grams of protein, carbs, and fat, this will do that for you. And I also put in formulas where once you set your minimums for each thing, you know, your calories, how many grams of protein you want, how many grams of carbs you want, how many grams of fat you want, it will let you know whether you are under or over for the day as you add things throughout. That's just been helping me to get a good handle on figuring out how much of each category I need to eat as I'm continuing to raise my calories little by little. Basically trying to add on about 100 calories every week and a half to 2 weeks. As of today, I'm shooting for a minimum of 1,800 calories for myself, but that will ultimately be lower than what I would like to get to, because my goal is to continue to get my metabolism to raise through my training, through basically growing my muscles, getting stronger. Your lean mass is basically what keeps your metabolism high, and already having a fairly high high metabolism to begin with because I've got a lot of lean mass. I feel like I can get it even higher, which is what I want because I want to eat more food. I think once I get to 2,000 calories and above, and knowing exactly how much protein I need to eat to hit my protein grams within that sort of setup, as well as carbs and fats, I'll be able to stop tracking so much and basically just eat intuitively and not have to worry about keeping any logs, because that is the goal, is to just kind of know, okay, I really haven't hit my protein for the day, so let me have a little bit of extra salmon at dinner, or, whatever the case may be. I have found that just by tracking it with my super simple log, I'm learning a lot. And it's already becoming very intuitive as I go throughout my day, where I can see, I've actually had very few carbs so far, because that is basically what happens when you eat the way I eat. You unintentionally become low carb. And I'm finding ways to adjust that intuitively as I eat each day or as I go throughout my day. Speaking of transition, I've been eating paleo-ish for many years now, essentially staying away from things like sugar and dairy, grains and soy. I'd have the odd legume here and there, but for the most part I wasn't eating things like rice, bread, pasta, etc. Since tracking my macros, I've learned just how low carb my diet is, because I have always just relied on vegetable and, the odd bit of fruit for my carbohydrates. But those foods are so low in carbs and often high in fiber, which ultimately reduces the net carb effect. And I have found that as I experiment with including more of your traditional carbs in my diet, things like a little bit of rice or even some bread, my energy has been way better. It's been a bit of a light bulb moment to be like, oh, maybe that's why I've been tired for 5 years. I guess my body thrives on a bit of carbohydrates. Complex carbs are always preferable to simple ones. So I do try to stick to whole grains and things whenever I do dip my toe in the pond of carbs. And I have been eating more things like oatmeal and rice and a little bit of bread without looking at it as a treat anymore. So I'm even less paleo than I was before, but so far so good. I feel like it is helping with my energy and also just happiness, because who doesn't love a sandwich every now and then? So let's go through what I eat in a day. This was just a regular degler day from last week during our Beast Mode Reload Challenge. Since filming this day, I have actually increased my calories incrementally. At this point, I believe I was trying to hit a minimum of 1,700 calories for the day. Again, very low for me. But I was far too nervous to increase my calories by, say, 500 a day in one go from what I was eating on those meal plans, because I was just worried that I would gain weight, long story short. Regardless, on this day, I was trying to hit a minimum of 1,700 calories, and this was actually, it wound up being a really great day to film based on my macros distribution, because it was a more or less perfect day once I had tallied everything up and saw where I was hitting on all of my minimums at the end of the day. We're at that point where I have to say something that I say a lot, and my ride or die is, say it with me, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm telling you what I do. Your calorie needs and macros distribution will be completely personal to what your body needs. I can't tell you what to eat, I can't tell you how much to eat, nor should I. But hopefully this will give you maybe some ideas about how to approach your specific needs. And please just look at this as me sharing information and experiences. By no means is this meant to be something that you should copy or duplicate. All right, let's get into the fun part and talk about food. Breakfast was oatmeal, not paleo, like I said, but I am not paleo, and I never really considered my diet to be super paleo unless I was being uber strict on a challenge or something like that. And then for protein, I also made some eggs. So to make my oatmeal, I used for the liquid a combination of almond milk and water. That's about 2 ounces of almond milk with maybe 8 ounces or so of water. Coconut milk is better and tastes better, but this is what I had that day. And to sweeten my oatmeal, I use dates. Basically, I use 1 date, and then I chop it up and I add that to the liquid, and then I bring it all to a boil. So this is just, I feel like, a better way to get the sweet taste without having quite as negative the effects, that sort of insulin spike that you might get from using regular sugar. I've been making my oatmeal this way for years now. I don't know the last time I used a proper sweetener to make it, but this is what works for me. I think when I first started doing it, I used to need 2 dates because I was still so sugar addicted that I needed more sweetness to it. And then I gradually stepped it down. And I remember at one point I was able to use only half of 1 date, and that was sweet enough for me. But I think with my recent lifestyle and choices, I've got a little bit of a sweet tooth again, so 1 date has been perfect. And then once the liquid's boiling, I add in my oats. This is half a cup, as well as some cinnamon. While those oats are cooking, I start heating up my pan for my eggs, melting my fat of choice. I like to use either butter or duck fat because they have fairly high smoking points when compared to things like olive oil or even unrefined coconut oil. Not to mention with coconut oil, all your food is going to taste like coconut, which is not always what I'm looking for. So while that pan heats up, I go back to my oats, and when the oats are done, I basically just have a bowl on standby with about a 1/4 cup of blueberries in there, and then I add the oats to that and then stir it up, and the frozen blueberries help to cool off my oats while I'm cooking my eggs. Now that my pan for my eggs is hot enough, I'm adding them in, and that is 1 egg with 6 ounces of egg whites. I'm not a big fan of egg whites. I know people think of egg whites as a great source of protein, but I think for volume, they're actually not that effective. With 6 ounces of egg whites, you would get far more grams of protein using 6 ounces of like ground turkey breast. But I really love eggs in the morning, so this is just something I'm doing right now as I sort of figure out how it is that I'm going to eat long term. And those little green flecks you see in the eggs are from this Trader Joe's onion salt, which is one of my go-to seasonings. I just discovered this earlier this year and I really love it. I use it in pretty much everything I cook damn near, and I'm already on my 2nd jar of it. So I just scrambled my eggs, as you do. I think everybody knows how to scramble eggs, and then serve those up with about 1 ounce of avocado, which I slice on top, and had that with my oatmeal, and that was breakfast. For my post-workout lately, I've been doing a combination of proteins. I use a combo of my collagen peptides as well as some whey protein. This is to give me more protein grams for less money because collagen peptides can be quite expensive. Not to mention they're also not a complete protein anyway, so I kind of like getting the 1-2 punch of the collagen peptides, which are paleo friendly, and whey protein, which of course is not. My post-workout shake is pretty substantial, so it's sort of a mini meal, and I used 2 ounces of almond milk with about 6 ounces of coconut water. I like to use coconut water because it's got natural electrolytes in it, so it's really good, in my mind at least, to help replenish my body after a tough workout. Then I add in my collagen peptides. That's about 22 grams. I say 22 as if I didn't weigh it, and I know for a fact it's 22 grams, as well as 30 grams of the whey protein powder. Then I add in 2 ounces of blueberries, 2.5 ounces of strawberries, and 1 packet of frozen acai. Acai is one of those superfoods that you always hear about. I think it comes from the Amazon. And I feel like just based on that rich, dark color that it has, it's gotta be good for you. So I've really been enjoying this berry acai smoothie that I've been making. And I do plan to continue to weigh and measure everything even after I'm not tracking anymore, because this particular mixture comes out to be a really nice taste for me, as well as a good texture, and a good way to ensure that I get the same result every time is to just weigh and measure it. Just cuts out the guesswork. I'm not much of a snacker, but I did feel a little bit peckish that day, so I did let myself have a snack. I usually just eat my 3 square and I'm done, but on this day I had some almonds. Those are dry roasted, as well as 4 ounces of turkey. That's low sodium deli turkey because cold cuts tend to be super high in salt and it's not that great for you. But again, I'm trying to eat a certain amount of protein each day, and until I figure out better options to do that, this has kind of been a crutch for me. And then that beverage, as much as I wish it were beer, it is not. It's just some kombucha. It's really good for my guts and my digestion, and I try to drink some every single day. For dinner that night, I had some Brussels sprouts, so I started off with those. I started off by frying 2 strips of bacon. I cut each of those 2 strips in half there, just because I feel like it cooks better in my skillet, especially after I use my meat press on top. I like my bacon super duper crispy, and I feel like cutting it and then cooking it this way gets me the best result. Once the bacon was done, I removed it from the skillet and set it aside, and then I tossed in the Brussels sprouts to cook in the bacon grease, and then I of course seasoned them. About halfway through cooking the sprouts, I like to squeeze some lemon juice on top, not just for flavor, because you gotta have your lemon juice, right? Gotta have that acid, but also to help deglaze the pan. Then once the Brussels sprouts were nearly done, I took one of those strips of bacon and basically just crumble it back in with them and stir it up. I like to use my meat shears because I'm fancy and I don't like getting my fingers super dirty with bits of bacon all over them, so I tend to just cut it up. And then the Brussels sprouts were done, so then I moved on to my main, which is going to be a shrimp and scallop stir fry. This type of stir fry is the kind of thing that I make damn near every day, and it's great because you can always switch out the protein, the vegetables, the starch, whatever, and you can change your spices up. And I feel like there are just so many different ways you can make it. There's probably hundreds of different combinations you can make, so it'll never really get old, but the basic process can remain the same. I cooked it in the same exact skillet. Typically I do like to roast my Brussels sprouts in the oven, maybe 10 to 15 minutes after cooking them on the skillet, because they just taste better. They get cooked through a little bit more and they taste a little bit nicer once you've roasted them. But I was using the same skillet for my stir fry, so I just didn't do that this night. And I had to add a little fat to the pan just to cook the remaining elements of my meal, so I added a little bit of butter. And I basically just add each element according from what cooks slowest to what cooks fastest. So whatever takes the longest I put in first, and that's the yams. Red potatoes work great. Basically you can use whatever the hell you want. You can use whatever vegetables you want. Sometimes I like to throw in some eggplant, whatever, get crazy, get nuts. I'm using some shrimp and some scallops on this occasion, but sometimes I'll use ground turkey. Ground turkey is a great lean protein if you want to up your grams of protein without worrying about adding a lot of extra fat, because that might throw off your other counts for the day. Sometimes I'll use beef. I've even made short ribs in my slow cooker and done like a short rib hash with this same basic procedure. It's super versatile. Once the yams are looking pretty much like this, I go ahead and add in some diced up bell peppers and chilies and onion. Once or twice a week, I buy a few bell peppers and like some Anaheim chilies, maybe some serranos, jalapeno, whatever I feel like, as well as onions. And then I just chop them up with my little food chopper that I showed you guys in this video. And then I just always have vegetables diced up and ready to be cooked. So it's really easy for me to just throw them into my stir fries or whatever dish as I'm cooking throughout the week. It's like meal prepping without actually meal prepping. So I just season all that stuff and stir it up. Then, because I was filming and forgot to do this earlier, I added in some zucchini. Normally I would do the zucchini after the yams and before the peppers and onions, but again, I forgot. Once those have cooked for a little while and I feel like it's a good time, I go ahead and throw in my shrimp and scallops, which I had already seasoned before starting any of this with some lemon juice and spices. So I throw in the shrimp and the scallops as well as some garlic, because I know typically when you read recipes or just watch cooking shows, they throw in garlic like first thing in the pan with the oil, and that never makes sense to me because one, garlic cooks super fast as it is, and two, it's generally cut very small, so all you're doing is burning your garlic. So I personally like to add my garlic last when I'm adding my lean protein. So I just let that all cook, and once again I add some lemon juice to all that for acid because it'll make it taste good, and also to once more deglaze my skillet a little bit. And once that looks like it's just about done, I go ahead and add that other strip of bacon from the very beginning of this dinner cooking montage. Snip that up with my meat shears and toss that in and then stir everything up. I have to say, this stir fry was some of my best work. It turned out super delicious, and I have recreated it once or twice since filming this video. It was really, really good. I'm sure I added some hot sauce to the top of it, which you won't be seeing in this clip, but knowing me, I'm sure I did. And that was it for the day. It's really been easy to track my macros because as I'm adding all my foods into my recipes, I basically just weigh everything and then I can look it up on Calorie King or MyFitnessPal. I prefer Calorie King because the MyFitnessPal website low-key blows. Actually, high-key, it really sucks. So I just go to calorieking.com most of the time to look things up, and it's really easy. I can just say, oh, that was 6 ounces of peppers, and I just put that in and it tells me the calories, the protein, the carbs, the fat, and I just put that into my grid. And then as I repeat elements throughout the week or whatever, I can really just copy and paste. So if I recreate this meal, which I did because it was good, I can literally just copy and paste all of those elements into the sheet that I'm using for that day. Because each day I just create a new sheet in my macros log. And yeah, it's just been really simple, straightforward, and it works for me. And that is it. That is what I've been eating and how I've been tracking my macros. As I transition into not tracking my macros, I do plan to update you guys. And that also lets you know how I fared in Project Beast Mode. I didn't take any measurements or anything like that or weigh myself at the beginning because I just didn't think to do it. But the changes that have happened have been more internal and behavioral. I'm feeling really good about my relationship with food and with exercise, so I definitely feel like I'm on a great path and it was definitely a worthwhile thing to do the Beast Mode reload. In terms of when I'll be doing another challenge, girl, don't ask me. Certainly no time soon because this was basically back to back. And I need some time to just recuperate and just kind of live my life and not be living under any rules and standards and minimums and requirements. But don't let that stop you from doing a challenge on your own. I often do challenges that I don't host here on my channel, so feel free to borrow some or any of the guidelines from this challenge or any of my past fitness challenges to do your own. Don't wait around for me to host a challenge to change your life. You can change your life today. That's a wrap. Congratulations to all of you who participated in the Beast Mode reload with me, including you, Philium, if you're watching. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.
That's a nappy-headed hose there, I'm going to tell you that now.